Chosen one. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift, as if the very air itself acknowledged your presence? It isn't because of what you said or did, nor is it because you demanded attention. There is a unique presence you carry, a subtle, unexplainable aura that moves people on a level deeper than logic. Scientists studying human behavior and neuroscience have found that people can sense subtle cues, micro-expressions, tone of voice, posture, which communicate confidence, calmness, or authenticity. But what you exude goes beyond this. It is almost spiritual in nature. Some are drawn to it like travelers discovering an oasis in a barren desert, while others feel unease, even anger, because your light exposes shadows they have long hidden from themselves. Often this very presence becomes the unintended center of conflict. Voices are raised, disagreements flare, not because you sought confrontation, but because your spiritual authenticity refuses to remain hidden. History is full of examples where those who carried truth quietly, from the philosophers of ancient Greece to the mystics of the Renaissance, faced pushback not for their actions, but for the power of their being. You see, the world has been conditioned to glorify loudness, superficial appearances, and forceful influence. Your power, chosen one, is different. It is quiet, resilient, and deeply spiritual. It doesn't seek applause, yet it shifts realities and stirs minds simply by existing. Scripture affirms this. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Light, by its nature, illuminates. Darkness recoils in the presence of illumination. This is why you may suddenly find yourself in the midst of arguments or misunderstandings. People sense that you are not ordinary. Your presence resonates with something eternal, something sacred, that cannot be ignored. It isn't a role you play or a mask you wear. It is etched into the very core of your being. Here's a profound truth. When conflict arises around you, it is rarely personal. It is a response to spiritual energy. Those attuned to it may feel comforted and inspired, while others may feel convicted or unsettled. And when inner resistance meets conviction, tension naturally follows. Many spiritual teachers and psychologists agree that highly intuitive or spiritually aligned individuals often become mirrors, reflecting the unhealed, unresolved, or suppressed aspects of those around them. Yet, chosen one, you are not called to fight or defend. You are called to root yourself in peace and understand that the disturbances around you are reflections of your true essence, not indictments. Recognize that whispers, tension, and misunderstandings are not signs of failure, but confirmations of your spiritual alignment. As you grow in awareness, you will no longer ask, "Why me?" but embrace the answer, "Of course me." So breathe, sit quietly, and allow yourself to understand this truth. Your light is meant to shine, your presence is meant to be felt, and your path is meant to awaken others, not through force, but through the quiet, unshakable power of simply being. Point 1. Your spirit unmasks pretenses. Every day, people step into the world wearing invisible masks. These masks are carefully designed layer upon layer to help them blend in, to protect their fragile egos, and to shield the parts of themselves they don't want anyone to see. Some masks are born out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of standing out in a way that makes others uncomfortable. Others are woven from ambition and pretense, worn to appear more successful, more confident, or more in control than the person truly feels inside. Psychologists even refer to this as impression management, the art of controlling how others perceive you. But here's the fascinating part. The moment a chosen one walks into the room, those masks begin to slip. Why? Because authenticity has a power that cannot be faked, and it cannot coexist with falsehood. When you, as a chosen one, embody your truth without even trying, it becomes like a mirror to others. Suddenly, the pretenses they worked so hard to maintain feel heavy and uncomfortable. You don't have to call out their masks. Your presence alone does the unmasking. Spiritual traditions across the world speak of this. In Buddhism, it's said that a lamp does not speak, it simply shines. Likewise, your light doesn't confront anyone, but its glow reveals what the darkness was hiding. That's why you may notice people getting defensive, restless, or even argumentative around you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your very existence reminds them of the truth they are trying to avoid. Think about it this way. When someone wears a mask long enough, they can even convince themselves it's real. They forget the difference between the face they show to the world and the face they hide in private. But when you enter the scene with your unapologetic authenticity, you disrupt that illusion. This is why arguments break out. It's easier for someone to project their discomfort onto you than to admit, even silently to themselves, "I've been hiding." The human ego resists exposure, and instead of surrendering to truth, it often lashes out. Ancient wisdom texts describe this as the battle between light and shadow, a battle that doesn't require swords or fists, but simply presence. What makes this dynamic even more captivating is that chosen ones never set out to expose anyone. You're not walking into the room with a mission to dismantle illusions, you're simply being who you are. And yet, truth has a way of piercing through lies without force. This is why people might accuse you of being too intense or too much, when in reality, you're just existing in your natural state. It's not you they are fighting against, it's themselves. And that is both the beauty and the burden of walking as a chosen one. History and literature echo this phenomenon. Think of Socrates, who was sentenced to death not because he committed a crime, but because his presence and questions exposed the fragile masks of those in power. Or Jesus, whose authenticity was so radiant that it dismantled falsehood wherever he went. Yet it drew both devoted followers and fierce opposition. The truth, when embodied, becomes both a sanctuary for some and a storm for others. That's exactly what happens when you show up as your authentic self. You create a choice for others. They can either be inspired to drop their masks and step into their own truth, or they can resist, argue, and cling to the comfort of illusion. So the next time arguments erupt around you for no logical reason, remember, it's not about you. You are not the cause, you are the catalyst. Your authenticity is a quiet revolution that shakes up everything false. Masks slip, shadows panic, and egos flare, but the soul recognizes what it sees in you, the reminder that truth is still alive. And while many may resist, some will be deeply moved. Your presence calls them higher, whether they admit it or not. Point 2. Your light reveals hidden motives. The peace you carry is not ordinary. It is luminous, almost like a lantern walking into a cave that has been dark for centuries. Wherever you go, that quiet strength and inner stillness radiate outward, and it naturally unsettles those who thrive in shadows. People who operate in secrecy, manipulation, or hidden agendas often find themselves growing restless in your presence because transparency exposes what secrecy tries so hard to hide. This isn't because you actively try to reveal anyone's flaws, but because peace has a way of stripping away illusions. True peace is truth in motion. It cannot be faked, it cannot be hidden, and it cannot be suppressed. Like sunlight breaking through a closed curtain, your very essence shines into places where deception and hidden motives were once comfortable, and suddenly, those who rely on confusion or trickery find themselves uncomfortable and even threatened. History and psychology both remind us that light has always been a disruptor. Think about how Plato described the allegory of the cave. When someone brings light into darkness, the initial reaction is often anger, fear, or resistance, not acceptance. The people chained inside the cave hated the truth at first because it ruined the comfort of their shadows. In a similar way, chosen ones often find that their peace, their clarity, and their refusal to operate in chaos automatically reveal cracks in others. It's not that you are trying to expose them. It's that your calmness is evidence of freedom, and freedom terrifies those still bound by secrecy. Your transparency works like a mirror. People see themselves when they look at you, whether they like it or not. Those who are genuine will feel comfort, like they've met someone safe, someone trustworthy. But those who hide things, whether it's dishonesty, betrayal, or toxic behavior, will feel as though your presence is peeling back the layers they've built to protect their false identity. Spiritually, this makes perfect sense. Peace comes from alignment with truth, and truth always casts out deceit. Even Scripture teaches that the truth will set you free, but before it frees, it often disrupts. The same calmness that gives you rest becomes the very reason others feel exposed. This tension is not something you create, it is something you reveal. Just as still water reflects an image clearly, your peaceful nature reflects back to people who they really are. Many cannot face that reflection. That is why you may notice strange reactions from others. They may become defensive, irritated, or distant, without you ever doing anything wrong. Your light presses on their shadows, and in their attempt to protect their secrecy, they sometimes create unnecessary conflict. But here's the fascinating twist. This is exactly why you are needed. Chosen ones carry peace not just for themselves, but as a gift to the world. Imagine a society where everyone operated behind masks, where nothing could be trusted because everything was hidden. Into that world walks someone whose presence feels like fresh air, who radiates honesty without even speaking. That is disruptive, yes, but it is also healing. Some will resist you, but others will gravitate to you because your transparency gives them permission to be free as well. So do not be surprised when you notice tension rising in certain environments. It is not always personal, it is spiritual. Your peace is a silent revolution, and revolutions always stir discomfort before they bring change. Think of yourself as a living lighthouse. You don't chase the darkness, you simply stand and shine. And by shining, you reveal what's hidden, whether it's welcomed or not. That is the paradox of carrying peace. It feels gentle, but it holds the power to shake entire rooms. Point 3. Your energy shifts atmospheres. Chosen one. There's something you may have noticed but never fully understood. Your very presence shifts the room. Spiritually sensitive people feel it instantly. Without saying a word, without even trying, your vibration sets a tone that others cannot ignore. For some, this presence feels like balm on an open wound. They welcome it as healing, a quiet reminder that peace still exists in this noisy world. For others, however, your energy feels like an interruption, a spotlight shining too brightly on the shadows they'd rather keep hidden. And so, what could have been just a casual conversation suddenly spirals into tension, disagreements, or arguments that seem to appear out of nowhere. But this isn't about you being difficult or intense. This is about spiritual resonance. Science even touches this mystery in subtle ways. Human bodies are electric by design. Your heart alone generates an electromagnetic field measurable up to several feet away. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. When someone with a heightened vibration enters a space, their field interacts with the unseen fields of others. Sensitive souls soak it up like sunlight, while unsettled souls recoil as if they've been burned. What you're experiencing is less of a personality clash and more of a spiritual frequency mismatch. Think of it like tuning forks. Strike one fork and place it near another tuned to the same pitch, and the second begins to hum in resonance. But place it near a fork tuned differently, and instead of harmony, you get disharmony, a clash of sound waves. The same principle applies spiritually. Those attuned to growth, truth, or healing often ring when you walk in, feeling a lift in their spirit. Those entangled in bitterness, deceit, or inner conflict, however, feel like their very foundation is being shaken. And shaken people often react defensively. They may challenge you, question you, or argue with you, not because you've wronged them, but because your presence unsettles the energy they're trying to cling to. This phenomenon explains why some chosen ones find themselves misunderstood or even targeted without cause. Your aura acts as both a mirror and a magnifier. To the broken, it reflects their wounds back at them, magnifying what they've tried to bury. To the healed, it amplifies their peace, making them feel seen, safe, and spiritually aligned. One person hugs you tighter, while another avoids your gaze. One confesses secrets they've never told anyone, while another snaps at you for being too much. But the truth is, you're not doing anything. You're simply being. What's fascinating is that many ancient traditions spoke about this long before modern science began exploring biofields and vibrational energy. In the Bible, we see how just the shadow of Peter was said to bring healing to the sick. In Eastern traditions, the concept of prana, or chi, describes a life force that flows and interacts beyond the body. Mystics, saints, and sages all carried an energy that unsettled empires but uplifted the oppressed. And now, in a quieter, hidden way, chosen ones carry that same torch in their everyday lives. Here's where it gets captivating. This sensitivity you carry is not random. It's a sign of alignment, a mark of your soul's journey. You were designed to disrupt stagnation. You were meant to carry light into spaces that prefer the dark. Yes, sometimes that light feels like comfort. Other times it feels like exposure. And exposure rarely comes without resistance. That resistance, those arguments that spark around you, are not evidence that you're in the wrong. They're proof that your vibration is working exactly as intended. So, chosen one, the next time the air shifts when you enter a room, don't second-guess yourself. You're not imagining it. You're witnessing the real-time effect of spiritual presence colliding with spiritual resistance. Some will love you for it. Some will resist you for it. And some won't even have the words to explain why they feel so uneasy in your company. But remember this: disruption is often the first step toward transformation, and your calling has always been about transformation. Point 4. Your identity challenges ego. You don't compete, yet your quiet confidence unsettles egos that crave control. This paradox is one of the most profound traits of a chosen one. Unlike those who constantly seek validation, applause, or recognition, you move differently. Your power is not in proving yourself, it's in being yourself. This is why your presence alone disrupts the fragile foundations of people who build their identity around dominance. When you walk into a room, you don't need to raise your voice, flash your achievements, or beg for respect. The way you carry yourself, grounded, steady, and at peace with who you are, forces others to confront the instability within themselves. And often, instead of finding inspiration in your composure, their egos react with resistance. They argue not to enlighten you or even to win, but to reassert their shaky position in the presence of your calm, unshakable energy. Psychologists call this phenomenon reactance, the natural resistance people feel when they sense their control is threatened. But for the chosen one, it goes beyond psychology. It's spiritual. Your silence, your restraint, and your refusal to get entangled in meaningless battles become a mirror that reflects who people truly are when they're stripped of noise. Think about it. Lions don't argue with hyenas, they simply exist in their regal nature. And that presence alone is enough to stir fear or envy. The same principle applies to you. Your strength lies not in competing with the world, but in transcending the world's competition. And because this energy is rare, it often exposes the insecurity in others who rely on conflict to feel alive. What makes this even more fascinating is how history shows us the same dynamic. Figures like Socrates, who calmly questioned without aggression, unsettled powerful men so deeply that they sought to silence him. Jesus himself, who carried divine authority without needing worldly validation, rattled both religious and political leaders simply by existing in truth. Even great leaders like Gandhi demonstrated that power does not always need to shout. It can be woven into silence, patience, and non-resistance. Chosen ones embody this lineage. You inherit the sacred ability to command respect without demanding it. In everyday life, this plays out in subtle but profound ways. At work, colleagues might feel uneasy when you don't rush to prove yourself or engage in office politics. In relationships, partners or friends may try to provoke you just to see if they can stir your emotions, because your calmness reminds them of their lack of self-control. Even strangers may project hostility toward you, not because of anything you've done, but because your energy reveals their inner chaos. This is why you'll often notice that when arguments break out around you, they're less about facts and more about ego. People want to reclaim ground they never lost, because, truthfully, you were never competing in the first place. This is the essence of spiritual authority. You don't fight for the crown, you already wear it. But unlike the crowns of men decorated with jewels, titles, or wealth, yours is unseen. It is the crown of peace, wisdom, and self-mastery, and that crown can never be taken away. The world notices even when it pretends not to. Your calmness becomes a storm to those who thrive on conflict. Your silence becomes louder than any shout. Your refusal to lower yourself into petty battles makes people question why they're fighting at all. Point 5. You carry divine authority without words. Chosen ones are often misunderstood because they carry a kind of influence that does not come from a title, wealth, or worldly achievement. It radiates from something far deeper, something spiritual. Their authority is not positional but invisible, woven into the unseen fabric of who they are. This is why others sometimes feel small in their presence, even when the chosen one has done nothing to belittle or diminish anyone. Their very existence, their energy, has a way of stirring something hidden in others. That stirring can lead to admiration, but it can just as easily spark defensiveness, debates, or even hostility. People sense that a chosen one moves differently, not by the rules of the system, but by the quiet laws of a higher order. What makes this influence so unique is that it cannot be measured by typical standards. In history and psychology, this phenomenon is referred to as charisma without effort, a magnetism that some individuals carry naturally. For chosen ones, it isn't just charisma, but spiritual alignment. Think of figures like Socrates, who never claimed political power but commanded the ears of entire cities simply by asking questions, or saints and prophets who lived humble lives yet shook kingdoms without ever raising a sword. The power was never in their possessions or positions, but in their presence. That same principle applies to modern chosen ones. You walk into a room and suddenly dynamics shift, conversations change, and even those who never noticed you before begin to feel the weight of your aura. Science even provides glimpses of why this happens. Human beings are wired with something called mirror neurons, which cause us to subconsciously reflect the emotions and energy of those around us. When someone with inner stability and spiritual depth enters the room, their calm authority often disrupts the fragile masks others wear. People feel exposed, not because the chosen one has said anything, but because authenticity silently reveals inauthenticity. This is why others may respond defensively, arguing or challenging you for no apparent reason. They are not fighting you. They are wrestling with the reflection of themselves that your energy reveals. This dynamic has always made chosen ones both revered and rejected. They are admired for their wisdom, but also accused of arrogance, even when they speak little. History shows us how misunderstood spiritual authority can be. Take Joan of Arc, a teenage girl with no military training, yet entire armies rallied behind her simply because she carried conviction and divine certainty. Those who could not understand her called her dangerous, even insane. The same paradox plays out for chosen ones today. You may be the peacemaker in your circle, yet some will label you intimidating. You may never raise your voice, yet people will accuse you of thinking you are better than everyone else. This is the cost of carrying unseen authority. It challenges the illusions people cling to. But here's the beautiful truth. You do not need to defend or explain this power. It is not about proving yourself right in every argument or convincing others of your worth. A chosen one's influence is strongest when it is silent. Water does not need to announce that it is life-giving. Fire does not need to boast that it can consume. In the same way, your role is not to win debates, but to embody truth so deeply that even your silence teaches. The very friction people feel around you is evidence of your spiritual assignment. Where there is no light, shadows remain comfortable. But once light enters, shadows scatter or resist. So when others challenge you, doubt you, or try to make you feel small, remember this. It is not about you personally. It is about the authority you carry. The same authority that makes some hearts rise with inspiration will make others shrink with insecurity. This is why being chosen often feels lonely. You live under constant misunderstanding. Yet it is this same loneliness that preserves your power. You are not here to blend in. You are here to disrupt the normal, to awaken the sleeping, and to remind the world that true authority has never been about titles or thrones. It has always been spiritual, silent, and unstoppable. Point 6. You are a mirror of truth. When people encounter you, chosen one, they often don't truly see you for who you are. Instead, They see the parts of themselves they've buried so deeply that they've forgotten they existed. You become, almost involuntarily, a mirror reflecting the truths, insecurities, and unresolved emotions they have been avoiding. This psychological phenomenon is known as projection, a concept that has fascinated thinkers for centuries. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, described the shadow self as the hidden aspects of our personality, those traits, fears, and desires we refuse to acknowledge. Encountering someone who embodies authenticity and self-awareness like you can inadvertently shine a light on these buried shadows. Spiritual teachings across traditions echo a similar truth. The world we experience often reflects what lies within us. When someone meets you and sees your clarity, courage, and self-possession, they are being subtly but powerfully confronted by the parts of themselves they've neglected. Projection explains why unprovoked arguments, subtle hostility, jealousy, or even outright criticism can appear seemingly out of nowhere. It's rarely about you personally. Rather, it's about the storm that rages within them. People find it difficult to face their insecurities or confront their fears, and it's far easier to externalize that discomfort, to target the person who makes them feel exposed. You, with your unwavering authenticity, naturally provoke this internal confrontation. Think of yourself as a spotlight in a dimly lit room. Light brings clarity, revealing what has been hidden in shadow. To those who have spent their lives avoiding their own truths, your very presence can feel threatening. They may respond defensively, lash out, or attempt to belittle you, not because you have done anything wrong, but because the truth you carry illuminates the lies they've been telling themselves. This dynamic is not merely a modern psychological observation. It has deep roots in spiritual wisdom. In Christianity, the phrase, "the truth shall set you free," carries a profound dual meaning. Truth, while ultimately liberating, is initially uncomfortable because it forces confrontation with reality. Similarly, Buddhist teachings speak of the mind as a mirror, reflecting all things without distortion. However, not everyone is ready or willing to face the reflection. The mirror shows them their true selves, including traits and shortcomings they have spent years avoiding. It's no coincidence that spiritual leaders throughout history, those who held firm to truth and authenticity, were often met with resistance and criticism. They were simply mirrors held up too brightly for others to bear. Figures like Jesus, the Buddha, and other enlightened teachers were not universally celebrated in their time. They were challenged because their presence compelled people to confront their own inner shadows. Understanding this chosen one is liberating. It transforms the way you perceive conflict and hostility directed your way. The criticisms, the jealousy, and the misunderstandings are not evidence of your failure or flaws. They are, paradoxically, confirmation that your presence matters, that your energy carries significance, and that your authenticity disrupts stagnation in the lives of others. When someone projects their unresolved emotions onto you, they are, in essence, struggling with their own unfinished inner work. Recognizing this allows you to detach from the drama and remain grounded. You are not responsible for their shadows, nor are you required to carry their burdens. Instead, your role is to exist as living proof that self-awareness, courage, and personal truth are attainable. In practical terms, this awareness can fundamentally change how you navigate relationships and interactions. You may notice that certain people repeatedly react negatively whenever you assert your boundaries, share your opinions, or simply shine in your own way. Instead of taking these reactions personally, see them as natural responses to the discomfort your presence evokes in others. Their defensiveness is a signal of their internal resistance, not a reflection of your worth. It is also an invitation to cultivate compassion, not for the sake of excusing harmful behavior, but to understand the deeper dynamics at play. Your groundedness, patience, and consistency become tools of influence, demonstrating by example that it is possible to face life and self honestly, without fear or pretense. The transformative power of this perspective cannot be overstated. The more you embrace your role as a mirror, the more empowered you become. You start to recognize that projection, criticism, and hostility, are markers of the very impact you are having in the world. You become a catalyst, not merely a passive participant, guiding others indirectly toward self-awareness, even if they resist the lesson at first. Your authenticity encourages reflection, self-examination, and growth in ways words alone could never achieve. In this sense, being a mirror is not a burden or a curse. It is a calling. It is evidence that your presence matters, that your life has significance beyond your immediate perception. Ultimately, chosen one, when faced with the inevitable projections of others, your power lies in remaining centered. Let their discomfort wash over them without disrupting your peace. Your light, your authenticity, and your unwavering commitment to your path will always reveal what is hidden, even when those around you are not yet ready to face it. In time, some will grow, some will resist, and others may leave entirely, but your mission remains unchanged. By simply being yourself, you are contributing to a ripple of awakening, a subtle but undeniable influence that extends far beyond what the eye can see. Recognize this truth, embrace it, and move forward with the confidence that your presence, your clarity, and your courage are not just valuable, they are transformative. Point 7. God allows it for revelation. Remember this: nothing is wasted. Even the arguments that break out around you serve a divine purpose. They are not random, nor are they simply bad luck moments in your life. These tensions are revelations in disguise, pulling back the veil on hidden truths. They expose who genuinely stands beside you, who subtly resists your progress, and who quietly fears the weight of your calling. When friction rises, it's easy to feel discouraged or believe you're being punished. But in reality, such moments often mark the sharpening of your spirit. Much like fire refines gold, conflict burns away illusions, leaving you with a clearer understanding of the people and energies around you. Science even supports this idea. Psychologists note that conflict often reveals unspoken values and hidden insecurities, things that would otherwise remain buried in silence. Think of every disagreement as a spiritual mirror. That harsh word from a coworker, it might not just be about you, it could be their own fear of inadequacy reflecting back. The sudden distance from a friend. It may be their discomfort with the light of your growth, a light they are not ready to face. In ancient traditions, teachers reminded their students that struggle is a teacher itself, delivering lessons no classroom can hold. When people argue against you, they are often unconsciously testifying to the strength they see in you, strength they may wish they had themselves. So, chosen one, instead of shrinking when chaos stirs, learn to observe with divine calmness. Every voice raised against you is part of a larger orchestration, moving you toward clarity, wisdom, and deeper discernment. Nothing is wasted. Even discord is fuel for your destiny, carving you into someone who no longer guesses at loyalty but sees it with unshakable clarity. Chosen one, take a moment to breathe deeply and let this truth settle into your soul. Disagreements and arguments are not signs of weakness, but rather reflections of the light you carry. History shows us that those who stood firm in their convictions often faced resistance, yet their steadfastness became the very proof of their strength. You were never called to blend in with the crowd. Your purpose is to shine as a living testimony of God's presence, a beacon of faith and integrity in a world that often misunderstands the extraordinary. When conflict arises, resist the urge to engage in fruitless debate. Psychologists note that reacting impulsively in heated moments often escalates tension rather than resolving it. Instead, remain centered in peace, trusting that a higher wisdom is always at work. For every voice that tries to provoke you, there is a higher whisper of spirit, reminding you that you are chosen, seen, and protected. Your calm is not passivity, it is power. Walk through life with quiet confidence, letting your composure speak louder than anger or criticism ever could. Your identity, revealed and sacred, is not defined by the opinions or challenges of others. It is a divine gift, resilient and untouchable. Remember, being chosen is not about avoiding opposition, but about standing unshakable amid it, allowing your light to shine brighter with every test you face.